Hi, welcome to our summit, How to Build a Brand, that is here today and in years to come. I'm your host, Katie Cannon, CEO of Gold Medalist Coaching, and I have the amazing Silvana Patrick all the way in Australia with us today, who is an image consultant and a personal brand specialist. So welcome, Silvana. It's an absolute pleasure to have you as part of the summit. How are you today?
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be speaking with you today.
And you've got up, it's not too early in Australia, but it's so good when you can make the time zones work, hey?
Yeah.
So Silvana's got an amazing story to share with you of really how to build a great brand, and she's going to share lots of experience with you from a business point of view as well as a corporate point of view as well. So Silvana's going to be talking about the importance of, I'm just going to read this off because it's quite long, the importance of the image aspect of personal branding, how we want to be perceived, and personal image in a globalized world. So Silvana, can you start with your story and how image has impacted on your career and your business?
Yes, it's a very interesting question because all my life image played such a huge impact. Obviously, I love fashion, and I'm a fashion designer by background, so that was the natural path. I started in the fashion industry, and very long, story short, I ended up in Vogue US when I was very young at a very tender age. However, as much as I loved the fact that I was at the top of the world at a very tender age, I absolutely hated the industry. I didn't fit in.
What was your title within Vogue US?
I was obviously a junior stylist. So obviously it was hard work, was no glam. I knew all that. It was not the hard work that bothered me, it was the culture itself. And the fact that I was hoping to create, I was never going to create anything in a magazine. Obviously I couldn't say no to the offer, and I gave it a go, but it didn't work. I couldn't continue. And then I packed my things, went back home. I'm originally from Brazil. So that was a frustrating, to say the least. I was kind of lost for a long time, and eventually I had to do something. And I entered the corporate world, as we do. And stayed there for as long as 15 years, like too long. But the thing is, in hindsight, I see that everything fell into place because transitioning from being a stylist to the corporate world, and you can imagine my mentality was not in the right position because I was still thinking that I belonged to fashion, and I struggled quite a bit. Not to mention how I dressed. I was still dressed like a young stylist. That didn't change that. It took me a long time to realize I had to change to conform and to get something out of it. And once I did, my career took off just like that. So I had a very successful career. Don't get me wrong, like I didn't hate it, but it took me places. I was transferred back to the USA and then to Australia, where I am at the moment, because I was successful. There were aspects of that I enjoyed, and I had a powerful image that people people are drawn to people who dress well. It's intrinsic in the brain, right?
It is definitely. If you see someone walk past you in the street, you naturally be like, oh, she looks nice.
It turns heads, right? And there is a combination of things that make you attracted to that person. You wouldn't relate to them. It's in our, it's intrinsic in us. We like pretty things, beautiful things that smell good, all that's in us. So it's not superficial at all, right? It builds your confidence. And then one thing leads to the other. You get more confident, you walk taller, and people want to relate to you, you improve your relationships, and people are drawn to you on the in turn. So that's powerful, and many people don't realize that. So yes, after 15 years, after being moved from place to place, and it's not going to stop because I have this Italian background as well.
Yeah.
And I was going to transfer to Italy next. And then I said, basta così, that's it. You know, like I don't want to be doing that for the rest of my life.
And do you have, Savannah, do you have children?
I have a 9-year-old.
So
That's exactly why.
He had to move around with you?
Well, yeah, my daughter was born in New Zealand. So that was the last place that I did my previous career.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the trigger point. I wanted to pursue my passion and be a role model for my daughter. And then I decided to quit the industry and establish my consulting business.
Mm-hmm.
Because back then, you know, like it never occurred to me before to be a stylist because it was not a popular thing. It was too out of reach. And then we're talking about 10 years ago. And then it was a little bit more popular. Mm-hmm. So I started my consulting business in New Zealand for a brief period of time. And then as a family, we moved to the Middle East. And then the Middle East was a whole new level because I was close to the, you know, the creme de la creme. And I had that when I was in the magazine, but in Qatar, where I was another level, was just like at the ground level of my building, all the designer shops, and you had access to all that. Plus, I was taking the chicas to, you know, jet planes to the Maisons.
Wow. It is a whole new. I've got friends in the Middle East that have moved there for teaching jobs and different jobs, and it is a different concept. It is a whole different world.
Yeah, exactly. It's rubbed in your face, you know, all the time. So you have access to that instantly. And that refines and finesses, you know, your fashion, but as you say. So that was a very enriching experience. Obviously, I expanded my business to Europe and back home and in Canada, because my husband is from Canada, and back in North America and as a whole. So that was a very, very interesting period that I got a lot of, how to say, you know, unmanageable, you know, like you wouldn't imagine anything like that. But then it was time to move back to a normal place and raise my daughter.
And just build some roots and some foundations, especially for your little girl.
Yes. When I was at the magazine, one of the things that bothered me the most was like dealing with models. And I didn't realize that it's kind of boring to dress a model, everything with, you know, just plain, and you just play, you kind of play with your creativity, but that's not challenging. It's not a human touch. So that's what fascinates me in my business, is dealing with people, real women, real men who have goals and dreams and hopes and all that. So that interaction, that's really, really my passion today. And that's so awesome to be able to do that.
Yeah, amazing. So Savannah, how would you say, you've briefly touched on it in your story, so thank you so much for sharing that. You've definitely lived a really enriched life so far and traveled and had so many incredible experiences. But why would you say image is so important within building a business, and why the need for good photos, especially for social media, is really important?
Yeah, I mean, when we're talking about personal brand, and that came to stay, right? There's no denial. 2020 has been proved that we really have to stand out from the crowd and take challenges into opportunities. And personal brand, more than ever, is a huge part of one's personal or professional goals. Companies are paying people with personal brands already established. So there are some examples there that are really much, you know, like really, really exponential, but I'll just to illustrate that. You probably heard of Neil Patel. He's one of, you know, the e-commerce.
I have, yes.
He is really, really successful, and he boomed like that. And at the beginning, he was already successful. He was in his early 30s. And he decided he wanted to do better. And he simply hired a stylist and, went over the top and bought a quarter of a US dollars on worth of clothes. And you name it, designer clothes, but he also tailored them and created a personal brand. And he deliberately created a spreadsheet to illustrate the success. And he made $750,000 out of that investment. So that was fantastic, just to illustrate that. That's like an extreme example, but that goes to show how image is important. And when I mean, it doesn't mean to be dressed up, right? What image is important is because it's the opportunity. It's the first aspect of personal brand. That's what people see first, right? Even before you open up your mouth. So of course you have to be backed up by your skills and your skills of articulation and all, but the image is the very first aspect. And and if you get it right, you open so many doors. And that's extremely important, to be authentic and not just be dressed or dressed well. It's dressed like you, right? Oozing your personality. That's how it's important to create a brief and to understand how you want to be perceived and how you want to send a message across. That's a lot of thought put through. But in saying that, it's just something that has to resonate, has to capture your inner essence.
I love that. And that brings us on so nicely, Silvana. I think that because so many times people are going, I'm just going to take some pictures for my Instagram, or that will do, or I'll just put that one up on it, or they're copying. It's so easy these days to just look at everybody else's accounts and copy. And it's good to take inspiration 100%, but being authentic and really building that sustainability in your brand and really make yourself stand out. And like you said at the beginning, this year has been so poignant for setting yourself aside, making yourself stand out. So, which leads us on nicely. And I've actually got a photo shoot next week as I'm redoing all my photos. So I'm going to take lots of inspiration from you, Silvana. But I know when I did my first proper lifestyle photo shoot, and I planned it, I planned the location, I had examples of shots that I wanted to take. And I only did that purely because a business coach that I had at the time said, Katie, you've really got to have a strategy for this photo shoot. You can't just wing it. And, I'm not saying I love the camera, but I'm, as a gymnast, I could throw some nice poses and I'm quite happy in front of a camera. And I was just going to wing it. And I'm like, I can do some poses. I know the shots I want. But when I really thought about it, I really got some great photos because I planned it and the locations. So what would be your top tips, Silvana, on how to create a good image, clothing, photography, like a few basic nuggets for people just to start from?
Right. So first things first, you have to create a good rapport with your photographer. That's crucial because he will really make you feel more relaxed and just bring your personality forward. You don't want to be tense or that kind of thing. So that's extremely important. But like you said, you put it very brilliantly. Like we really have to put thought on that and the atmosphere and everything that will compose the photo. So think about who your audience is and what would they expect. Like, are they female predominantly, male predominantly, and all that? And what's the area? What's the industry? And then secondly, think about personally what works for you, right? If it's a torso shot, just a headshot or anything, think about something that will enhance you without transforming you. Think about that. Some makeup artists will like to do, crazy things. Just ask them to just bring the best of you and not transform you into someone who you are not, or do it something too extreme to your hair or to your makeup. If you're like you're kind of person that never wears makeup on a daily basis, and you're not going to show up like in a very, very strong makeup look. So that these things have to be taken into consideration. Your personal coloring is also very important, but that's very personal. But I think above all, it's just think about the whole composition of the photo and how relaxed you're going to be in front of the photo. Obviously, that's not an easy thing for many people, but if you just think about something nice or a fun moment when you were during the photo shoots, it will help to relax your facial expressions.
Yeah.
And just don't get inspiration from anywhere else unless it's something that really, really has to do with your brand. It's very similar. But I think it's just more important to think, what's the message? What's the message that this image I want this image to be perceived like? Is it approachable? Is it more assertive? Think about keywords for that and just try to emulate that.
Absolutely. And I think the key one, like you've said, is know your audience. Who is it going to be? Is it going to be for women? Is it for men? Is it for children? Like, what is your message that you're trying to convey? And one thing, just touching on, Silvana, on what you said about don't get them to make you up to be something that you're not. So the good thing, obviously, with these days, you're doing a lot of shoots, you're doing your photos, you've got video. And one thing you don't want to have is your website having these pictures of you with fake lashes, pink hair, and looking completely different. And then that person gets on a call with you, or you do a Facebook Live, and they're like, is that the same person?
Exactly.
Because they're like, she looks completely different. And one comment, obviously my gyms is a children business, is my other business is all gymnastic centers. And one thing that we get told a lot is the experience that they have on the website. So they click their child in we have a fun, vibrant website. They then come to the gym and it looks exactly the same. So the gym is the same message. It's fun. It's inviting. So you just make sure your brand is consistent across the board.
Absolutely.
And it all matches.
Absolutely. It really has to be consistent, cohesive. Like people get these things right. They sense the discrepancy, and it's really, really important to avoid, like you have to avoid this kind of experience at each touch point for the client. Experience.
100%. So Silvana, that's been so useful because, as I said, we haven't had any experts within the summit share the importance of building that brand and really focusing on image. So thank you so much, Silvana, for all your expert knowledge and bringing all your corporate experience to the table as well. Now, I'm putting you on the spot here a bit, so I forgot to ask you at the beginning, but we give you the option for all our speakers to share like a free gift with our community that they can find out a little bit more information about what you do. So do you have like a style guide or an image guide or something they can opt in and find out more about you?
Yes. If you visit my website, Silvana Patrick, Silvana.
I'll pop it in the bio, so don't worry.
You will find an online shopping guide. It's pretty useful for those we are more than ever buying online, right? The world is so small and people in lockdown, like they really have to. So it's a foolproof online shopping guide that I have for free for you guys if you download it.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Silvana. I will definitely be getting my hands on that as well. So thank you so much, Silvana. It's been an absolute honor having you on the summit. So as always, Silvana's bio about all her amazing experiences and a bit more about her story and her background will be below this video with her style guide for you. So pick one thing. I'd say if you've got a shoot, if you wanted to do anything with your brand, and if you're brand new to your business or you're quite established, as we are launching this at the end of a year, really plan forwards for 2021 and just ask yourself some questions of what Silvana was talking about. Just thinking of your industry, what your audience is, what color you want to use, what's your message. Don't think of you need to make this so complex, because then you never move forward. Just strip it right back and think, you are your best client. You are your client, and think, what do they want to see from me? And just start there as a base point. You don't have to have an expert camera or hire stylists that's going to cost you thousands and thousands and have an expert Vogue shoot. You know, literally keep it basic and just start from where you're at in your business. So thank you so much for listening. It's an absolute honor, Silvana, to have you as part of our summit. And I'll let you have an amazing rest of your day in Australia. I'm off to bed in a minute, and I will see you in the next interview. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, Silvana.